I do have PTSD. During the war, bad things happen at nighttime. My body's kind of always on alert during night, more at ease to sleep during the days. And there's plenty of different ways that it manifests itself, but that's definitely one of the big ones. One of my favorite moments from Muhammad Ali was after he defeated Sonny Liston, which nobody believed that he could do, but he did. He pulled it off, and at the end of the fight, he kept saying, "I shook up the world." And that's one of the things I try to say to myself, that I want to shake up the world. He stepped outside to have a smoke, and then a missile landed in front of him. And that's basically everybody just heard a big explosion inside of the house, and that's basically. My grandfather died during the war, and two of my uncles, and other friends, and some distant relatives that we know of. And so there was a lot of people that we personally knew or that were related to us that ended up dying during the war. Death just started to become so common. Seeing it everywhere, it just kind of became like an everyday thing almost. We weren't allowed to buy food because we were Bosnians. There was not much to go play outside anymore or be free to go outside and play. And we were pulled from school. Actually, me and my sister stopped going to school even before that started happening because of just the harassment we received because of who we were. So a lot of people ask me sometimes, do you just hate Serbian people? No, of course not. Because if it wasn't due to some Serbian people, we would not have survived. One of our neighbors saved my dad from being executed. I remember him telling me that two Serbian soldiers were trying to tell him, "Oh, we need you to check some water pipes up here in this area." And my dad knew the entire town and the water system like the back of his hand because he grew up on that town, and that's what he did, plumbing most of his life. And then he knew there was nothing up there. There was nothing to check. And they had their guns pointing at the ground with fingers on the trigger, and they were marching him up. And he thought, well, this was it. I'm gonna die. And then our neighbor called the two soldiers over, and he spoke to them. My dad still has no idea what he said to them, but they just told my dad he was free to go right away after he spoke to them. And he was a Serbian guy, so how can we say we hate anybody? No, it's not the group of people. You can't. I can't paint everybody with the same brush because certain ones did bad things. So I don't believe in that when people say, well, you must hate Serbian people. I absolutely do not. There's good and bad people everywhere. Good Bosnians, bad Bosnians, good Serbians, bad Serbians, and it goes with every nationality in the world. Nationality, race, religion, doesn't matter. There's good and bad in everybody. If I had to pick a quality that I appreciate in Muhammad Ali, it was just the confidence that he had. Everything he did was with such a level of confidence that you could not question it. It was always like, I'm gonna do this, and it's done. If he said he was gonna win a fight, he won a fight. If he's gonna accomplish something else in life, he accomplished it. So I think that's one of the best qualities that he had. That was just that made him who he is. The values that martial arts holds, I believe one of the biggest ones is discipline, self-discipline, confidence. It helps you with your general well-being, for mentally and physically. it's not just for one or the other. I think it's a combination. It's always martial arts tries to focus on a balance of mind and body, and that's kind of what I believe martial arts does. My martial arts experience comes from starting doing karate as a kid in Bosnia. I went from doing karate as a kid to moving here, and after I moved here, I started doing some boxing. I like boxing, well, obviously, trying to follow Muhammad Ali's footsteps, so I was a big fan of boxing. So after boxing, I got into a little bit of a kickboxing. And I saw that, and I'm like, wow, I like the idea of using more things in a fight, not just my hands. And then I saw MMA, and I wanted to do that. So I was like, man, you get to do everything in MMA. So I wanted to do that, and then I competed on the low-end amateur level and locally. That, after experiences of an MMA, I remember seeing Krav Maga, and that took it to a whole new level. Now Krav Maga had weapons, it had blunt weapons, it had guns, it had knives, and it didn't have any rules. And I was like, well, this has got to be the ultimate fighting style to learn, and then be the best that I can be, and feel the most confidence that I can have to be able to defend myself or somebody I care about, and in the real world, not just for competition. Krav Maga is what I believe, and what is believed around the world to be one of the most effective hand-to-hand combats used in the military itself, in the war zone, on the battlefield. It's originated from Israel, and it's used by Israeli Defense Forces. That's where they teach their military, and that's where the Krav Maga originated from, and it's spread out throughout the rest of the world and other militaries, organizations, and civilian world. I would love to use those experiences from the war. I would love to use my experiences as a Krav Maga instructor to motivate people to raise their confidence levels and be the best that they can be at anything that they want to achieve. What made Bosnians being able to defend and defeat the enemy in a lot of these battles was motivation and heart. During the war in Bosnia, what ended up happening was we were highly outnumbered, and we did not have nearly as much people. We didn't have the equipment that the Serbian military had. We didn't have a military. All we had was people. They were ordinary people that took up arms, anything they could find, knives, hunting rifles, stuff. They dug stuff out of their basement from World War II and try to form some kind of defense. But no matter how many weapons we had, we always had more volunteers to want to fight than the weapons themselves. And because everybody wanted to be part of it, everybody was, realized that we either sit here and just die, or we do something about it. At least go down swinging, as they say. And I think that's what we did, but we didn't go down. We stopped him. We stopped him from basically killing everybody, and we started pushing back and taking back our towns and territories and everything. I do believe that a lot of that comes from the war and being in a situation where you have to have a certain level of confidence to defeat the enemy. It's the mindset, it's having heart. The first time I heard about Muhammad Ali was when I was a young kid. I remember my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle watching his old fights on TV. That's when I first saw him on TV, and first time I heard a name, and my family, everybody was a big fan of his. I do remember visiting his childhood home in Louisville when I got to meet his brother, Rahman Ali, and got to have a really pleasant chat with him, and we were talking a little bit. And one of the things he said about his brother when he was young, that even when he was a young kid, he would say, one day I'm going to be the greatest. So I think that's something that he had in his head from a really young age. So I think that translated into adulthood and everything he's accomplished. I believe what makes me more than just a regular Krav instructor was because I think that philosophy behind martial arts is important. The way I see it, a lot of people can teach you how to punch and how to kick and how to do certain self-defense moves, but I think it's the way people think that needs to be changed in a lot of ways, from the predator versus a prey type of mentality, in order for certain self-defense and martial arts to be really effective. The positive feedback that I've gotten from my students, that I've made them feel that way already, I'm very proud of that. I'm very humbled by that. I initially didn't set out with this goal to have this direct thing that I'm going to go and do this. I just want to teach Krav, and then I started getting feedback of people just kind of, hey, your class makes me feel this way, and I feel this way when I'm in your class. And I looked at it for a second and I was like, wow, maybe I can use this to help people. I didn't realize it had this much of an impact with people, but if it does, then by all means, if I can help even one person, that would be amazing. Me and my whole family, we applied to get our citizenships. After, you have to be here for at least 5 years, and you can apply, and you got to take the test. So we all did, and we all passed. And I remember my parents got to swear in to be a citizens inside of a building, you know, watching the president give a speech on a screen, and they have to stand up and take an oath. But I got a little bit more of a special treatment, because it was 200 people that got invited to swear in to become citizens at the steps of Lincoln Memorial in DC. It was a pretty big ceremony there, and they had a band playing, they had people giving speeches, and Colin Powell was there. And once we swore in and took an oath, and he gave an inspirational speech about his parents being immigrants themselves, and what kind of hardships they had to go through. So it was pretty inspirational. It was definitely one of the prouder moments of my life. To get to swear in at the steps of Lincoln Memorial, out of all places. I mean, many people get to become citizens, but not many people get to swear in at the steps of Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. That was a pretty big deal. So afterwards, we went and shook hands with Colin Powell and everything as we got our papers. If I could do something that would affect the world, it would be to stop the petty hatred because of certain labels and titles and categories we like to put ourselves into. You look at nationality, race, religion, any of these little categories we like to use to identify ourselves, and then paint certain groups with the same brush. It's basically to stop the hate. They treat each other like human beings, everybody. We're all human beings. And if one thing I could do to impact the world is just to kind of stop so much hatred for stupid reasons, if you ask me.